Have you ever met someone who seemed almost too perfect? Calm under pressure, always polite, generous. But something didn't fit. Their presence left you strangely uneasy. Why would someone so exemplary manage to make you so uncomfortable? As if your intuition whispered that something was wrong behind that impeccable facade. What if I told you that the real danger is not found in explosive temperaments or open aggression, but in something much quieter? The true danger hides behind constant smiles. It disguises itself as kindness. It uses generosity as armor and humility as a weapon. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of the modern era, warned us about a type of person who hides in plain sight. And this vision finds echoes in Karen Horney, who explored how our search for an idealized self can dangerously distance us from who we are. In this video, we'll dive into Jung's profound insight to unveil the hidden trait that marks the truly dangerous among us, those we rarely suspect. Jung discovered that each of us wears a psychological mask, the persona. It's the face we present to the world to function in society, gain approval, and feel safe. But here's the danger. Some people cling so tightly to the mask that they forget they're wearing one. They begin to believe that the mask is who they really are, and that's where the true silent danger begins to form. Behind the mask, the unconscious and the shadow. But what happens to all those parts of you that don't fit into the perfect mask? Your anger when you're wronged, your envy when someone has what you'd like, your selfishness when you need to prioritize your needs, your most primitive desires, your rawest ambitions. These parts don't disappear. They go to a place that Jung called the shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It isn't monstrous. It is simply honest. It's the repository of everything you really are, but cannot show. Your raw emotions, your forbidden desires, your pain, your hunger for control. The shadow is you without filters, you without editing, you without the desperate need to plead. Think about it. When you're alone in traffic and someone cuts you off, what's your first reaction? That's your shadow speaking. When you see someone achieving something what do you really feel deep in your chest? Shadow again. Imagine a 5-year-old child having a tantrum because they didn't get the toy they want. The adults around immediately intervene. Don't be like that. How ugly. Well-behaved children don't act like this. And they quickly learn. Anger, rejection. At 7 years old, they feel envious of the sibling who got more attention. What ugly envy, they say. You have to be generous. Another painful lesson. Envy, loss of love. At 10, they want something just for themselves. How selfish. You have to think of others first. One more part is banished. Personal needs, selfishness, abandonment. And so, piece by piece, entire parts of the authentic personality are pushed into the shadow. Each unacceptable emotion is exiled. Each inappropriate impulse is buried alive. But here's what nobody told you. Burying something alive doesn't kill it. It only makes it wilder. But here's the crux of the matter. What we hide doesn't disappear. It waits. It grows. It becomes distorted. Years pass, and that child grows up becoming an exemplary adult. Never shows anger. Never admits envy. Always puts others first. Everyone around thinks, what a wonderful person. But what if this goodness isn't a choice, but a prison? And here, Karen Horney's vision becomes crucial. She discovered the phenomenon of the idealized self, that crystallized image of perfection we build of who we should be, a fantasy of pure created to escape the terror of discovering who. It's like living trying to be a marble statue when you're made of flesh and blood. When someone firmly believes they are above anger, above jealousy, above selfishness, when they obsessively cling to this idealized self, become dangerously disconnect their real self. They become completely blind to the ways these same traits secretly control them. It's like an alcoholic who swears they don't drink while hiding bottles around the house. Jung saw this dynamic as a true spiritual disease, the disease of someone who prefers to live a beautiful lie rather than face an uncomfortable truth. And now, let's talk about the most dangerous behaviors of all. But before that, if you're enjoying this journey of discovery about the human mind, leave your like here to show me you're enjoying it, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring these deep mysteries of the human psyche together. Because what comes next will make you question many situations you've already experienced, because they are invisible even to those who practice them. The controlling, helpful person. They say they're just being helpful, but notice carefully. They always know exactly what's best for you. Their suggestions come disguised as care, but carry a subtle and constant pressure. If you don't accept the help, they get hurt. The punitive, peaceful person. They claim they're just establishing healthy boundaries, but observe the pattern. Their boundaries always involve you losing something. They never explode, but you always leave the conversation feeling diminished. The resentful, loving person. They insist they're spreading unconditional love, but there's something sticky about this love. It comes with implicit demands, with unspoken expectations, with a silent resentment that you feel but can't name. The most disturbing truth of all? They don't lie to others first. They lie to themselves. They genuinely believe in their own pure intentions, and it's exactly this self-imposed blindness that makes them so dangerous. Because how can you defend yourself from someone who doesn't even know they're attacking? Deaths. Jung left us one of the most disturbing phrases in modern psychology. What you do not make conscious will govern your life, and you will call it fate. Think about the depth of that for a moment. Every time you say, I don't know why I always end up in toxic relationships, or I don't understand why people always disappoint me, you may be seeing your unrecognized shadow shaping your reality. When we ignore these dark parts of ourselves, they don't sit quietly waiting. They organize themselves. They strengthen, and they find increasingly creative ways to govern our life. They manifest in unexplained anxiety that wakes you at 3 a.m., in disturbing dreams you prefer to forget, in self-sabotage that always arrives at the moment you're about to achieve something important. But the most dangerous manifestation of all, when these rejected parts are projected onto others. Here's the terrible equation that Jung discovered. The more someone obsessively clings to their identity as a good person, the more their shadow grows in secret, like an invisible tumor. It's a cruel mathematic. For every degree of perfection you publicly display, a corresponding degree of darkness accumulates internally, and this repressed shadow begins to find its own ways to escape. The innocent. Sarcasm. Those seemingly harmless jokes that always leave someone slightly hurt. Oh, it was just a joke. You're too sensitive. The refined passive aggression. They never say no directly, but their actions speak volumes. They consistently arrive late. They forget important commitments. They do things halfway and then play victim when questioned. Controlling relationships. Disguised as care. I'm just worried about you, becomes the pretext to monitor, question, and gradually isolate the person from other influences. And the scariest part? They genuinely don't realize what they're doing. Their self-image as a good person is so crystallized that it functions as a shield against any feedback from. And now we come to the heart of the matter, the most dangerous person of all. It's not the psychopath you can identify from afar. It's not the obvious narcissist everyone can see. It's that person who categorically refuses self-reflection. You recognize them by the pattern. When something goes wrong, it's never their fault. When there's conflict, they're always misunderstood. When they receive feedback, there's always an explanation about how their intentions were pure. They use their goodness as an impenetrable armor. How can you question someone who just wants to help? How can you criticize someone who sacrifices so much for others, but observe carefully the details they think nobody notices? The almost imperceptible sigh when you don't follow their advice. The smile that doesn't reach their eyes when you succeed without their help. The way they always manage to make themselves victims even when they cause the problem. Secretly, they resent the world for not applauding them enough, for not adequately recognizing their sacrifices, for not being grateful enough for all their goodness. And here's the most disturbing truth. They become a mystery, even to themselves. They live so disconnected from their true motivations that even they no longer know where genuine kindness ends, where unconscious manipulation begins. And mystery, when wrapped in denial and armed with a reputation as a good person, becomes pure chaos. How do you expose someone who doesn't even know themselves? How do you protect yourself from someone who firmly believes they are your protector? But here's the good news that can completely change your perspective. The shadow isn't here to destroy you. It's here to awaken you. Think about it. All that anger you repressed? It guards your ability to establish healthy boundaries. That envy you deny? It reveals your true desires and ambitions. That selfishness you hide? It protects your legitimate need for self-care. The shadow is the part of you that guards your fire, your authentic voice, your rawest truth. It's where your vital force, your real passion, your ability to say no when necessary resides. Notice a person who has never accessed their shadow. They can't defend themselves. They can't fight for they can't establish boundaries. They become hostage to their own goodness. Jung never suggested we get rid of the shadow. That would be like trying to get rid of half of who you are. On the contrary, he believed that integrating it, facing it with brutal honesty and courageous compassion, was the only key to human wholeness. The process is uncomfortable, but deeply liberating. First step, the courageous confession. Stop pretending you're own. Sit in a quiet place and admit to yourself, out loud if necessary. Yes, I'm capable of intense anger when I feel disrespected. Yes, sometimes I manipulate situations to get what I want. Yes, I feel envy when I see others achieving what I would like. Yes, I can be selfish when I need to protect my energy. This isn't a confession of guilt. It's an acknowledgement of humanity. This is where true transformation begins. Second step. Observation without judgment. Become a detective of yourself. When you feel anger emerging, instead of automatically repressing it, pause and ask, what is this anger trying to protect me from? What boundary of mine was violated? What is this emotion trying to communicate to me? When you feel envy, instead of denying it, investigate. What does this person have that I genuinely desire? Is this envy showing me a dream I abandoned? Third step. Alchemical transformation. Here's where the magic of integration happens. You learn to use your shadow, consciously transforming poison into medicine. Your anger becomes laser assertiveness. Instead of exploding or repressing, you communicate boundaries with surgical clarity. When you do X, I feel Y, and I need Z to happen. Your manipulation becomes ethical influence. You recognize your power to influence others and use it consciously for mutual benefit, not for unilateral control. Your selfishness becomes intelligent self-care. You protect your energy and resources without guilt, knowing you can only give to others what you have in abundance. The transformative result. This is where we become truly trustworthy, not because we're perfect, but because we're conscious and predictable. People who have integrated their shadow are like open books. When they're irritated, they communicate directly. When they have an agenda, they're transparent about it. When they need something, they clearly ask for it. They become safe because you always know where you stand with them. Jung's warning was never about bad people. It was about people who live in total denial of their darkness. Because here's the discovery that changed psychology forever. When you refuse to look inward and integrate your shadow, it doesn't disappear. It projects outward like a dark film over your reality. Your denied anger becomes irritating people who constantly appear. Your repressed envy becomes envious people you always attract. Your unconscious manipulation becomes manipulative who repeatedly emerge in your relationships. Jung was warning us about the danger of spiritual blindness, the danger of living a life where you are eternally the innocent protagonist in all your stories, while the world around seems to conspire against you. Shadow integration is the difference between being a victim of unconscious patterns and being the conscious architect of your own. His message wasn't one of fear, but a call to supreme courage, the courage to turn inward, look in the most brutal mirror that exists, your own psyche, and say with total honesty, I am not just light, I am also shadow, and both are mine to carry, integrate, and use consciously. This is the beginning of real wisdom. Not the wisdom of books, but the wisdom of someone who knows all the dark corners of themselves and chooses consciousness over denial. This is the beginning of true integrity. Not the integrity of someone who never does anything wrong, but the integrity of someone who knows exactly what they're capable of and consciously chooses how to use them. Remember this fundamental truth. The most dangerous person isn't the one who feels their darkness and deals with it consciously. It's the one who pretends to have no darkness and lets it govern their life in the shadows. Look carefully, not just at others, but mainly at yourself. Because the journey to recognize the hidden danger in others always begins with the courage to recognize the hidden danger in ourselves. And when you finally stop running from who you really are, light and shadow intertwined, you become someone you yourself can trust. And that might be the most powerful transformation of all. If this content made you reflect on your own shadow and that of people around you, subscribe to the channel for more profound insights about psychology and human nature. And leave in the comments, have you already recognized any of these patterns around you or in yourself? Share your experience as it may help others in this journey of self-knowledge, and especially leave your like to let me know you enjoyed it. Share with that friend who you know needs to know this too. Until the next video, where we'll continue this journey of transformation, keep shining.